Welcome everyone, to a journey back in time. We're heading to Australia, but not the Australia you know today. We're going back about 50,000 years, to a time called the Pleistocene. This was a world where giants roamed the land, and danger lurked behind every corner. Imagine stepping off a time machine into a landscape that was both familiar and honestly terrifyingly different. The air was thick with the sounds of unknown creatures, and the ground shook under the weight of animals larger than any you've ever seen. This was the Australia that the very first humans discovered when they arrived, a true land of the lost, filled with prehistoric monsters. It was an epic battleground for survival. The Australia of 50,000 years ago was a supercontinent of extremes. Parts of it were lush and green, with vast forests and winding rivers, while other areas were becoming drier, creating the beginnings of the deserts we see today. But the most incredible thing about this ancient land was its inhabitants. This wasn't a place of kangaroos and koalas as we know them. This was a land ruled by megafauna. These were supersized versions of animals, some related to modern creatures, others entirely unique. It was a world where a lizard could be as long as a bus and a mammal could have a bite stronger than a lion's. What an amazing and wild place this must have been. Thinking about it really gets my adrenaline pumping. Every step for those early humans would have been a calculated risk. Was that rustle in the bushes a harmless wallaby, or was it something far more sinister? Was the waterhole safe for a drink, or was a massive predator lying in wait just beneath the surface? This environment was a true test of wits and courage. The animals here weren't just big, they were highly specialized predators and massive herbivores that had evolved for millions of years to be the kings of their domain. This prehistoric ecosystem was a complex web of life and death, and humans were the brand new and perhaps most vulnerable species to enter the fray. Our adventure is to explore this lost world and meet the incredible beasts that called it home. We'll uncover the secrets of these nightmare creatures, from land-walking crocodiles to venomous giant lizards and bone-crushing marsupial lions. We're going to look at how they hunted, how they defended themselves, and what made them so unique. This is more than just a history lesson, it's a wildlife safari into a time when Australia was the most dangerous place on Earth. So grab your gear and your sense of adventure, because we are about to come face to face with Australia's prehistoric monsters. It's going to be a wild ride. Our first monster is a true nightmare straight out of the outback. Meet Quinkana, a crocodile that decided it didn't want to be tied to the water. This incredible creature was a genuine crocodilian, but it was built for life on land. Imagine a crocodile with long, powerful legs, allowing it to sprint across the open plains in pursuit of its prey. It wasn't just a slow, lumbering beast, it was an active hunter. Most Quinkana were about 10 feet long and weighed around 440 pounds, roughly the size of a modern alligator. But fossil evidence suggests some massive individuals could have reached nearly 20 feet long. This was a top-tier predator. What made Quinkana so terrifying wasn't just its size or its land-based lifestyle, it was its teeth. Unlike modern crocodiles that have cone-shaped teeth for gripping and drowning their prey, Quinkana had something special. Its teeth were like steak knives. They were flat, blade-like, and serrated along the edges, a type of tooth known as xiphodont. This is the same kind of tooth that famous meat-eating dinosaurs like T-Rex had. This tells us that Quinkana didn't hunt like its modern cousins. It didn't need to drag its prey into the water. Instead, it could chase down an animal, bite into it, and use its serrated teeth to slice through flesh and bone. This land shark was a master of ambush and pursuit. Its long legs and hoof-like toes were perfect for chasing down animals over short distances. It likely hid in the tall grasses or sparse woodlands, waiting for an unsuspecting giant kangaroo or a young Diprotodon to wander by. Then, with a burst of speed, it would launch its attack. Its tail was different too. It was flatter and less muscular than a swimming crocodile's tail, another clue that it spent most of its time on solid ground. While it could probably swim if it needed to, its true kingdom was the dry earth, where it reigned as one of Australia's most fearsome predators. When you compare Quinkana to today's saltwater and freshwater crocodiles in Australia, you see a completely different hunting strategy. Modern crocs are masters of the aquatic ambush, using their powerful tails to propel them through the water and their immense jaw pressure to hold on to prey. Quinkana, on the other hand, was an out-and-out terrestrial carnivore. It filled a niche that, on other continents, was occupied by big cats or giant hyenas. The existence of a land-based crocodile really shows you just how unique and different prehistoric Australia truly was. It was a place where reptiles took on roles we usually associate with mammals. If a land-walking crocodile wasn't enough to give you chills, let me introduce you to the undisputed king of Australia's prehistoric reptiles, Megalania. This wasn't just a big lizard, it was the largest terrestrial lizard that has ever existed. Now classified as a species of giant monitor lizard, Varanus priscus, its closest living relative is the famous Komodo dragon. But Megalania dwarfed its modern cousin. While scientists debate its exact size due to fragmented fossils, conservative estimates put it at over 11 feet long. Larger estimates, however, suggest it could have reached a terrifying length of up to 26 feet and weighed nearly 2 tons. That's longer than a car and heavier than a rhino. Megalania was the ultimate apex predator, a true dragon of the Australian outback. It had everything a giant hunter could want: a massive, muscular body, powerful legs for charging, and razor-sharp, recurved teeth designed to tear into flesh. Its claws were like daggers, perfect for gripping its prey or for defense, but its most sinister weapon was likely invisible. Just like its modern relatives, the monitor lizards, scientists believe Megalania was venomous. It wouldn't have needed a fast-acting poison. Instead, its bite would have delivered a cocktail of toxins that caused rapid blood loss, shock, and paralysis. It could bite its prey and simply follow it, waiting for the venom to do its deadly work. Imagine the scene: a giant wombat-like Diprotodon grazing peacefully, unaware that it's being stalked by this colossal lizard. Megalania would move with surprising speed for its size, closing the distance before delivering a single, devastating bite to the leg or flank. Then, the waiting game would begin. The venom, an anticoagulant, would prevent the wound from clotting, causing the massive herbivore to slowly bleed out and weaken. Megalania, with its incredible stamina and keen sense of smell, would patiently track its victim for miles if needed, knowing that its meal was already secured. This hunting strategy made it capable of taking down animals many times its own size. Today, Australia is home to the Perenti, the country's largest living monitor lizard, which can grow up to 8 feet long. The Perenti is an impressive predator, but it is a mere shadow of its gigantic ancestor. Megalania was in a league of its own. The thought of a venomous lizard the size of a small truck roaming the landscape is a powerful reminder of how different the rules of nature were back then. For the first humans, an encounter with a Megalania would have been a life-or-death situation. It was a true monster, a real-life dragon that ruled the land with poison and power, a testament to a time when reptiles were kings. Now let's turn our attention to the mammals, because Australia had a mammalian monster that could rival any reptile. I'm talking about Thylacoleo, the marsupial lion. This creature wasn't a cat at all. Its closest living relatives are actually wombats and koalas, but don't let that cute family connection fool you. Thylacoleo was the largest and most powerful mammalian predator in Australia's history. Ranging in size from a large dog to a female lion, it was a stocky, muscular beast built for pure power. It was a perfect example of convergent evolution, where a marsupial evolved to fill the same predator niche as the big cats on other continents. The most incredible thing about Thylacoleo was its bite. Pound for pound, it had the strongest bite of any mammal ever known, living or extinct. Its skull was incredibly dense and blocky, providing attachment points for massive jaw muscles. This allowed it to generate the same bite force as a lion 2.5 times its size. But its teeth were even stranger. It didn't have canine fangs like a typical cat. Instead, it had huge, forward-facing incisors like a rodent, and its premolars had evolved into enormous blade-like shears. It didn't stab its prey, it sliced them. It was a bone crusher and a flesh slicer all in one. Paleontologists believe Thylacoleo was a masterful ambush predator, and it had a secret weapon to help it. On each of its front paws, it had a giant, semi-opposable thumb armed with a massive, retractable claw, much like a cat's. This feature suggests it was an excellent climber. One terrifying theory is that Thylacoleo would climb trees and wait for prey to pass underneath, dropping down onto its victim's back in a surprise attack. It could then use its incredible bite force and shearing teeth to sever the spinal cord and windpipe, killing prey that was many times its own size in under a minute. It was a brutally efficient killing machine. There is nothing alive today that compares to the marsupial lion. The Tasmanian devil is a distant, much smaller relative with a powerful bite for its size, but it is primarily a scavenger. Thylacoleo was a true apex predator. The thought of this beast dragging its kills up into trees, much like a modern leopard, is a chilling image. Imagine walking through the ancient Australian forests knowing that a 300-pound predator with bolt-cutter jaws could be watching you from the branches above. For the early humans, Thylacoleo represented a unique and deadly threat, a marsupial monster that defied all expectations. Our next creature is one that taps into a primal fear for many people, a giant snake. But this was no ordinary python. This was Wonambi, a member of an extinct family of snakes called the Madtsoiidae. These snakes were ancient, having survived the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs. During the Pleistocene, Wonambi was one of Australia's top ambush predators. It could grow to be over 20 feet long and was as thick as a telephone pole, making it comparable in size to a very large modern reticulated python. It was a heavy, muscular snake built for constriction, a true giant of the serpent world. Wonambi was a non-venomous constrictor, meaning it killed its prey by wrapping its powerful coils around them and squeezing until they suffocated. It was a master of the ambush, and its favorite hunting grounds were likely waterholes, billabongs, and riverbanks. It would lie perfectly still, partially submerged in the murky water or hidden in the dense vegetation along the edge, waiting patiently for an animal to come for a drink. When an unsuspecting kangaroo, wallaby, or even a young Genyornis got close enough, Wonambi would strike with incredible speed, grabbing the victim with its mouth and instantly wrapping it in its deadly embrace. Here's where things get really weird and honestly, a little gruesome. Modern snakes like pythons and boas have incredibly flexible jaws that can dislocate, allowing them to swallow their prey whole, even if it's much larger than their own head. Wonambi couldn't do this. Its skull and jaw were much more rigid, meaning it couldn't open its mouth wide enough to swallow large animals in one piece. So, how did a 20-foot snake eat its oversized meals? It is believed that after constricting its prey, Wonambi would use its teeth and powerful body to tear off large chunks of flesh, consuming its victim piece by piece. It was a messy and brutal way to eat. Today, Australia is famous for its deadly venomous snakes like the inland taipan and the eastern brown snake. But its largest snake is the amethystine python, which can reach similar lengths to Wonambi. However, the python is a much more modern and efficient eater, swallowing its prey whole. Wonambi represents a more ancient and primitive branch of the snake family tree. Its unique and rather grisly feeding method sets it apart. The idea of a giant snake that not only strangles you, but then rips you apart is pure nightmare fuel, and adds another layer of terror to the dangerous world of prehistoric Australia. Not every giant in prehistoric Australia was a bloodthirsty predator. The landscape was also home to some of the largest herbivores the world has ever seen. The king of them all was Diprotodon, the largest marsupial that ever lived. Imagine a wombat, its closest living relative, but scaled up to the size of a rhinoceros or even a small elephant. Diprotodon could weigh up to an incredible 3.85 tons. These massive creatures were slow-moving, gentle giants that roamed the open woodlands and grasslands in herds, much like elephants do today. They were bulk feeders, using their powerful rodent-like incisors to tear up shrubs, roots, and grasses. Of course, being a giant herbivore in a land full of super predators meant you needed some serious defense. Diprotodon's primary defense was its sheer size. A fully grown adult would have been a very difficult target for even a pack of Thylacoleo or a hungry Megalania. It was a walking mountain of muscle and bone, but it wasn't completely helpless. It also had an incredibly powerful bite, estimated to be strong enough to easily snap a human femur. If a predator got too close, Diprotodon could deliver a bone-crushing bite with its massive molars. Young or sick individuals were likely the main targets for predators, while healthy adults were relatively safe. Another incredible giant sharing this landscape was a bird of epic proportions, Genyornis, often called the Thunderbird. This was a massive, flightless bird that stood around 6.5 feet tall and weighed over 500 pounds. It was part of an extinct family of birds called the Dromornithidae, which were distantly related to ducks and geese. Despite its intimidating size and powerful beak, scientists believe Genyornis was primarily an herbivore, using its large beak to crush fruits, nuts, and tough plant material. It was a powerful animal, with thick, robust leg bones and sharp claws on its feet that could have been used for defense. These giant herbivores played a crucial role in shaping the Australian environment. Just like elephants in Africa today, Diprotodon herds would have created pathways through the bush, dispersed seeds and altered the vegetation through their grazing. Genyornis, too, would have been an important seed disperser. While they weren't the terrifying monsters that hunted in the shadows, their immense presence was a key part of what made prehistoric Australia so spectacular. Their existence supported the massive predators that we find so fascinating, forming the foundation of this incredible megafauna ecosystem. They were the gentle and not-so-gentle giants of this lost world. Even though the giant monsters of the Pleistocene are long gone, Australia has certainly not lost its reputation as a dangerous place. In fact, modern Australia is famous around the globe for being home to a startling number of animals that can be lethal to humans. The continent seems to have a special knack for producing creatures with potent venom. It's home to more deadly venomous species than any other country on Earth. This includes 20 of the world's 25 most venomous snakes, with the top 11 deadliest all slithering through the Australian bush. The inland taipan, for example, has enough venom in a single bite to kill 100 adult humans. But it's not just snakes you have to worry about. The danger comes from the water, the land, and even the sky. In the oceans, you have the great white shark, a perfect and powerful predator. But even more feared are the box jellyfish, whose sting can be excruciatingly painful and fatal within minutes. Along the coastlines and in the northern rivers lives the saltwater crocodile, the largest living reptile on the planet. These modern-day dinosaurs are ambush predators that have remained virtually unchanged for millions of years, and they are responsible for human fatalities every year. They are a living link to the prehistoric past, a reminder of the reptilian rulers of old. Even seemingly harmless or beautiful creatures can be deceptive. The blue-ringed octopus is tiny and vibrant, but it carries a neurotoxin powerful enough to kill an adult human with no available antivenom. Then there are the spiders, like the Sydney funnel web, whose potent venom can be fatal if not treated quickly. Even the birds can be dangerous. The cassowary, a large flightless bird found in the rainforests of Queensland, is known for its aggressive behavior and a giant dagger-like claw on its inner toe that it can use to disembowel threats. It's often labeled the world's most dangerous bird for a good reason. This modern menagerie of dangerous animals shows that the spirit of prehistoric Australia is still very much alive. The continent's long isolation allowed for the evolution of unique and highly specialized creatures, and many of them developed powerful defensive or offensive capabilities. While a saltwater crocodile is not a Quinkana, and a Parenti is not a Megalania, the same evolutionary pressures that created the ancient monsters are still at play. Australia remains a land where you have to respect the wildlife and watch your step, a place where nature's power is on full and often deadly display. It's a tough neighborhood, and it always has been. So we have this terrifying landscape filled with giant predators and monstrous reptiles. The big question is, how on earth did the first humans survive, let alone thrive, in this nightmare world? When people first arrived in Australia around 50,000 to 65,000 years ago, they didn't have metal weapons or advanced technology. They came with stone tools, wooden spears, and most importantly, their incredible intelligence and ability to work together. They were entering an environment where they were not the biggest or the strongest, so they had to be the smartest. Their survival is one of the greatest stories of human resilience and ingenuity. Teamwork was absolutely essential. A single human would have been an easy meal for a Thylacoleo or a Megalania, but a group of coordinated hunters could turn the tables. They would have used their knowledge of the land to their advantage, setting traps, using fire to drive animals, and developing sophisticated hunting strategies. They could exploit the weaknesses of these giant beasts. For example, they might have targeted younger or isolated animals, rather than taking on a massive, healthy adult Diprotodon. They learned the behaviors of these creatures, knowing when and where they were most vulnerable. It was a battle of brains over brawn. Fire was another one of their most powerful tools. Humans used fire not just for warmth and cooking but as a weapon and a land management tool. They could use it to create clearings in the dense bush, which would attract grazing animals that they could then hunt more easily. They could also use fire to defend their camps at night, creating a protective barrier of light and heat that would deter nocturnal predators like the marsupial lion. This mastery of fire gave them a significant advantage and allowed them to begin shaping the environment to better suit their needs, a process that would have profound and lasting effects on the Australian landscape. Ultimately, the arrival of humans marked the beginning of the end for the megafauna. While climate change was also a major factor, with the continent becoming hotter and drier, Humans were a new and highly efficient predator that these giant animals had never encountered before. They hunted many of the large herbivores like Diprotodon and Ganyornis, which in turn reduced the food source for the giant carnivores. The success of humanity in this incredibly hostile land is a testament to our species' adaptability. They didn't just survive, they conquered a continent of monsters, proving that intelligence, cooperation, and innovation are the most powerful weapons of all. The world of Australia's prehistoric monsters may be gone, but its echoes still resonate across the continent today. The disappearance of the megafauna, an event that happened relatively recently in geological time, left a massive void in the ecosystem. The predators and herbivores that had shaped the land for millions of years vanished, and the environment had to adapt. The unique wildlife that we see in Australia today is, in many ways, a product of this ancient, more dangerous world. The animals that survived were the ones that could adapt to the changing climate and the new pressures brought by human arrival. Consider the modern kangaroo. It is known for its incredible speed and endurance, an adaptation that likely became even more crucial for escaping both the ancient predators and the new, intelligent human hunters. The toughness and resilience of many Australian animals can be seen as a legacy of this high-stakes evolutionary arms race. The prevalence of venom in so many species, from snakes to spiders and jellyfish, might also be an echo of this past. In a land of giants, developing a potent chemical defense or offense was a highly effective survival strategy that continues to define Australia's fauna today. The story of Australia's megafauna also serves as a powerful cautionary tale. The extinction of these incredible creatures, caused by a combination of climate change and human impact, shows how fragile even the most dominant species can be. It reminds us that ecosystems can be thrown out of balance, and that our actions can have profound and irreversible consequences. The loss of these giants forever changed the continent. We can only imagine how different Australia would be if Diprotodon still roamed the plains, or if the call of the thunderbird could still be heard in the bush. It's a world we can now only visit through fossils and our imagination. So the next time you see a wombat digging a burrow or a kangaroo hopping across a field, take a moment to think about their gigantic ancestors. Australia's wild past is a fundamental part of its identity. It's a story of monstrous beasts, of incredible survival, and of a lost world that was more spectacular and terrifying than anything we can imagine. The legacy of these giants lives on in the land itself and in the unique and hardy creatures that call Australia home today. It's a reminder that beneath the surface of the modern world, the echoes of a prehistoric nightmare, a true life adventure, are still there to be discovered. What an amazing planet.